Ladies and gentlemen, the NFL draft is officially over. And before we do anything, I just want to give a major shout out and a big thank you to all of you. This has been an unbelievable draft cycle. The amount of love and support you guys have shown over the weekend has been tremendous. And I know this is just the beginning. This is a dream of mine to be able to cover the NFL draft. And it's been incredible so far. We're going to be grading every single pick and give an overall team grade for every single team, all 257 picks of the draft. So if you guys enjoy these types of videos, leave a like, subscribe if you are new, comment down below what was your favorite pick of the draft, and stay tuned. Some major announcements coming very soon for the 2025 NFL draft and beyond. But guys, let's start it off with the Arizona Cardinals. The team got an A from me. I thought they had a pretty solid draft. Obviously, when you get my favorite number one overall player at Marvin Harrison Jr., you're going to be doing pretty good. I love Darius Robinson as well. I thought that was a B plus. I love his versatility along the defensive line. But then you kind of look around. I love Melton. I love Benson. And then kind of 71 and 82 really were the picks that held this back from being an A plus. Tip Ryman in the top 100. I get his athletic upside is there, but I did not think he was worthy of a third round pick. The athleticism is there. He's a otherworldly blocker. And then you got Elijah Jones as well. I thought that was an A. Dadrian Taylor Demerson, it's a B, but you could argue it's an A. I love what he can bring to this team. Xavier Thomas, Christian Jones, love both of those picks. And then Tajon Palmer and Jaden Davis, a couple of guys I'm not as familiar with as some of these other ones. B minus. The Cardinals really prioritized secondary, which was a major need. They upgraded the defensive line. I would have liked to see them add some interior presence on that D line, but you get Christian Jones, who I think could be a starting tackle for you down the road. You get Isaiah Adams, and I love his versatility to play tackle or guard for you. And they improved their biggest position of weakness, which was the cornerback. You got the best running back in the class, Trey Benson at 66, the best receiver in the class. It's an A draft from Arizona. I thought they absolutely crushed it, and they addressed everything they needed to. For the Atlanta Falcons, one of the most disappointing draft classes here. It is going to be a C for me. Michael Penix Jr., it was a D pick. It made absolutely no sense. And people are like, well, what if Kirk gets injured? Well, you still don't get a backup quarterback with the number 8 overall pick. There were bigger needs. All the defensive guys were on the board. Trade back, do something. Don't take Penix at 8. And this is from a Michael Penix Jr. fan. Ruke Ororo at number 35, another player that I liked. They gave up number 79 in order to move up to get him. I don't think he was worth moving that capital for. Braylon Trice is a solid player, got a B. I thought they were turning it around. They got Brandon Dorlus, a guy that I liked, a versatile defensive lineman, could play on the interior, could play on the edge. Bit of a tweener in terms of his size. You got J.D. Bertrand as well, who I think is a very cerebral player, very smart. But then their last 3 picks kind of brought it back down to a C. Jace McClellan made absolutely 0 sense for them. Maybe he's going to be a return guy. Better running backs on the board, in my opinion, for one. And secondly, you have 2 of the best running backs, like the best running back duos in the league, and Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier. Casey Washington was a fine pick. I thought there were better receivers on the board. Zion Log was another fine pick. Georgia defensive lineman, can't go wrong there. But they didn't really impress me. I'm not in love with any of these players from their draft. It gets a C for me. It's painfully average, and I had high hopes for Arizona or for Atlanta coming in, and it was just kind of a bunch of meh for me. At the Baltimore Ravens, I think had one of the better drafts here. It was an A for me, and then I think those final 4 picks really brought it down to a B. Nate Wiggins, Roger Rosengarten, Adisa Isaac, Tez Walker, and TJ Tampa. All home runs. This could be a B plus, A minus. I'm in that range between an A minus and a B. But Rasheen Ali, I didn't really understand. You've got Keaton Mitchell coming back. I know they run the ball a lot, but you got Derrick Henry and Keaton Mitchell. I didn't love that. Devin Leary at 218. Didn't think he was the best quarterback on the board there. Nick Samick and Sanusi Kane are not 2 guys that I'm too familiar with. You got some interior offensive line depth, which I don't hate, and then another safety, which they like to run. But if we talk about their first 5 picks, Tampa and Wiggins at the cornerback positions were tremendous value. Tampa's got size. He's a moldable ball of clay is what I've kept saying throughout this pre-draft process. He's very good in zone coverage, very smart, still trying to figure out the man game. And then Roger Rosengarten, one of my favorite picks of the entire draft class. Excellent run blocker, very athletic, fits what this Ravens team wants to do. Adisa Isaac as well was one of my biggest steals in the draft at 93. And then Tez Walker at 113. He's fast, but he also has size on the outside. I think I'm going to pay more attention to the North Carolina tape than what we saw at the Senior Bowl. It was a good draft from the Ravens. I think it's about a B plus, A minus, somewhere in that range. The Buffalo Bills had an A for me. I loved almost every single one of these picks. I think they absolutely crushed it. Keon Coleman, I know not a lot of people love that pick. Adonai Mitchell, Lab McConkey might have made more sense, but Keon Coleman is a physical wide receiver who's going to win down the field. Cole Bishop, another very versatile safety prospect. This team knows how to develop safeties. I think he fits perfectly what Buffalo wants to do. That was an A. Dwayne Carter was an A minus. Didn't think defensive tackle was a major need for this team, but they went out and got one of my favorite players. I'm not going to complain. I love what he provides. Ray Davis, I love that pick. It's a B. Probably could be a little bit higher. It's my lowest graded pick down there with Travis Clayton. But Ray Davis is going to provide some power to this running back room that I don't think they have. You've got the quicks with James Cook, and now you got a power back there in Ray Davis. Cedric Van Pran at 141, tremendous value. A guy that I didn't think was super athletic, but he just holds his own in pass pro. I think he's going to be a really good fit there. Eddie Fawn, Ulofoshio, and Javon Solomon were two of my favorite picks of the entire night. Ulofoshio is a very good linebacker, and we saw in the playoffs last year when guys went down, their linebacker depth was very thin. I love what Ulofoshio can bring. Javon Solomon was super productive for Troy over the last few seasons. Yes, he's a bit undersized, but he's going to be a dynamic piece. And then they just got depth pieces. I think Daquan Hardy at 219 provides some nice secondary depth. And then Tylen Grable and Travis Clayton, both in that B range for me. Clayton coming from England, an absolute massive human being. Tylen Grable as well. Maybe not the biggest guys, or maybe not the highest upside in the world, but you're just kind of banking on that one of these guys hitting to be a future tackle. I think Buffalo had an awesome draft. It gets an A from me. The Carolina Panthers got a B plus. I love what they were able to do. I think their first 5 picks even, really hit the nail on the head. My only complaint, they didn't draft an offensive lineman. It's a good center class. Maybe you could pick one of these guys up on the open market. Xavier Leggett, one of my favorite receivers. You traded up in the first round to get him. You traded up for Jonathan Brooks, who I think is going to be fantastic for this team. Trevin Wallace was a B, not a B plus. Thought there were better linebackers. I love his athleticism. They took another linebacker later in Michael Barrett. Very interesting that they double dipped at linebacker. Jatavian Sanders to open up the day today was very interesting. I love this pick for this team because he provides some receiving upside in that tight end room that I don't think they really have. Chow Smith-Wade, very intriguing as well. He's going to be a nickel corner for them at the next level. You play him with J.C. Horn. I really like what that is. And then Jaden Crumedy, good run defender, probably going to be on that defensive line as a rotational guy with Derek Brown. It's a B plus. The only thing holding it back from an A, if they had drafted an O lineman, I would have loved that. They didn't. It's a B plus from me. The Chicago Bears get an A plus. I don't think they missed on a single one of these draft picks. Obviously, you get Caleb Williams and Roma Dunze, two of the best players, 2 top 5 players in this class for me. It's an A plus. Kieran Amagaji, very raw athletic tackle. Not going to need to start right away. I think a lot of Bears fans were saying, oh, he's going to start day one. He might not. I think they could develop him. Braxton Jones could be the starter. He's also really athletic. Maybe you kick him into guard. Torrey Taylor was a bit of a puzzling one with their final pick, but I actually kind of like it. He's going to flip field position. He's an incredible puncher for them. And they traded back up into the draft to get Austin Booker. Look, I'm not the biggest Austin Booker guy in the world. It's well documented. But at 144, you can't pass on that athletic upside. He's a freak athlete. He's got very good quickness, good length. The testing numbers didn't do him any justice. This was one of the best draft classes we've seen. Chicago turned themselves into a contender, and I think are easily one of the most improved teams post-draft. The Cincinnati Bengals got a B from me. Now, I love quite a few of these picks. Amarius Mims, one of my guys in this class. I know the limited collegiate experience is going to be concerning. I'm not worried about it. Chris Jenkins, Jermaine Burton, both get A's. Jenkins is going to be a very nice piece on this front, and Jermaine Burton is as well. And then they kind of went a weird direction towards the middle of this draft, taking McKinley Jackson. I get the pick. He's going to be your DJ Reader replacement, but they double dipped at defensive tackle, which was weird. Then they double dipped at tight end, taking Eric All at 115. Injuries are very concerning with him, really holds him down. He was my number 10 tight end. But then they drafted Tanner McLaughlin at 194. He's going to be the tight end that I'm buying stock on this team because he is a very good receiver. Josh Newton, solid corner. Dijon Anthony, not really familiar with him. He got a B- there. Cedric Johnson, an A-. I do like Cedric Johnson a lot. He's going to be a rotational pass rusher for you. He's very athletic. Hasn't really pieced everything together, but you can certainly see the upside with him. And then Matt Lee at 237, maybe a bit undersized, but very productive for Miami. To get him with your final pick in the 7th round, who could be a starting center in this league at some point in his career, I think this is fantastic value. It's a B, though, because I thought double dipping at defensive tackle and double dipping at tight end was interesting. Maybe could have gone running back, maybe could have got more tackle depth. But overall, I think it was a solid draft from Cincinnati. The Cleveland Browns get a B-. Probably, I'm actually going to change this here. It's an A. I don't think they missed on a single pick. Michael Hall, Zach Zinter, Jamari Thrash. I love all of these guys. Hall and Briggs to be your defensive tackles. Briggs is more of a powerful run-stopping guy, as to where Michael Hall, he's going to be that pass rusher for this team. Zinter is coming off a very serious injury, but the upside is tremendous with him. And then you look at Nathaniel Watson. I think it's a B+ for the value you got him at. He's a tackling machine. I think he struggles in coverage. He's not a very good athlete, but he's going to tackle everybody that comes his way. Miles Harden and Jamari Thrash. Shout out to you, Cleveland. You guys took two of my guys in this class. Go back and watch my guys' video. Jamari Thrash and Miles Harden were two of my guys in this class. Miles Harden's a slot corner. He's had some injury histories coming from an FCS school, but man, he's been productive. He's got good ball skills, super fluid. And Jamari Thrash is going to be a home run for this team. He's going to be that slot receiver. He should start over Elijah Moore. He's not maybe the most fast guy in the world, but he's got reliable hands. He's reliable after the catch, and he knows how to create separation. This was a very, very good draft from the Cleveland Browns front office. I know it says B- up there. This is an A draft from Cleveland. The next team, it is the Dallas Cowboys. I think this is a B+. I really, outside of the Leofau pick and the Nealand pick, I talked about it in my day 2 grades. The Nealand pick I get, but I didn't love it. I thought they could have gone somewhere else with it. Every other pick I love. Guyton's a B+ because I think he's still a bit raw. You're really trying to figure out what he's going to be. Nealand, we know he's dynamic. I just didn't really understand why go there early. Cooper Beebe, one of my favorite players in this class, get him at 73. It's a good problem to have. They also took Nathan Thomas at 233. I think that's good value for the Louisiana tackle. They know how to find value at the offensive line. I thought Dallas killed it on that front. Getting my guy Kalen Carson at 174. I love this guy. He's fluid. He's quick at playing the slot, playing the outside. I think that's great value there. Ryan Flournoy, another one of my guys in this class. He got him at 216. Justin Rogers, not really a guy that I was a fan of. I felt he was a bit undersized. Nonetheless, not really going to change this draft for me at 244. It's a B+, borderline A draft from Dallas. I think they hit on almost every pick. And even the Leofau pick, I talked about it. As much as I didn't like the value, I really like the player. I think it's going to be a good draft for Dallas in the long run. For the Denver Broncos, it is a B. I thought the end of this draft really hurt them. I know it says Bo Nix is a B. I thought maybe they could have traded back to get him later. There weren't a lot of quarterback needy teams around. And then their next 3 picks I thought were fantastic. Jonah Ellis gets an A. Troy Franklin's an A+. You reunite him with his college quarterback. I love that. And going back to Jonah Ellis, a dynamic edge rusher. He's got very good quickness, very quick first step. He's explosive off the line of scrimmage. He's going to be awesome for Denver. Chris Abrams-Drain has been very productive. Not really sure why he fell in this draft. He could play in the slot, could play on the outside. He's a very good zone corner, sits back, reads the quarterback well. Then they took Audric Estime. It makes sense. He's going to be that thunder to Javonte Williams' lightning. Didn't think running back was where they should have gone. Devon Vele, I did not like this pick. You got Marvin Mims, you got Troy Franklin, Cortland Sutton. Why spend another draft pick on a receiver? I thought they could have double dipped at corner. I thought that would have been a smarter move. And then Nick Gargilo out of South Carolina, an interior offensive lineman. I thought it was a fine pick. Thought there were more needs that they could have addressed. Still a B. I still quite like this Broncos class. I think that a lot of these, I think at least 4 of these guys are going to be long-term mainstays for the Denver Broncos. It's a B from me. For the Detroit Lions, it's a B. I already can hear the comments. Why are you doubting Brad Holmes? Why are you doubting Dan Campbell? Trust the process. They know what they're doing. I'm not saying they don't. The fact that they double dipped on corner with their first 2 picks was a bit puzzling because Rakestraw, Arnold, it tells me more that they don't have confidence in the guys they have. They brought in Carlton Davis. They still have Brian Branch. I love both of these guys. Both of these guys were, I believe both of them were top 5 corners in this class for me. So to get one at 24 and one at 61, tremendous value. Giovanni Manu was one of the weirdest picks in the entire draft class. Coming from British Columbia, I get the athleticism is there. He's going to be that developmental tackle. Did they need that? No. They should have gone with the receiver, which they didn't address in this class. In the most receiver-loaded draft class, they didn't take one, which was very interesting to me. Sione Vaki also didn't make sense. Why are you taking another secondary weapon? That's 3 secondary players out of 6 picks. But then they redeemed themselves by taking Mekhi Wingo at 189. The fact he fell to them was absolutely ridiculous. This guy's freakishly athletic. He offers some pass rush upside from the interior. He's going to be a great piece. And then Christian Mahogany falling to them at 210 is just unfair. He should not have been on the board past 120. The fact he was a top 100 guy in this class, you got him at 210. He's going to sit behind Kevin Zeitler. He will be starting for the Lions at some point in his career. This is a home run pick for them. I like 3 of these picks quite a bit. 3 of them left me puzzled. It's a B for the Lions. For the Packers, it's another B. They continue to have some of the most confusing draft picks I think I've ever seen. And it honestly starts with Jordan Morgan. Got a C from me. I like Morgan. Didn't think they should have gone O-line first, considering you had almost all the corners still on the board. Edgerrin Cooper at 45 was their best pick with Kitchen Oladapo down the board. I thought both of those guys were heavily underrated in this draft class. To get Cooper, who's going to be an athletic force for this team, he's going to rush the passer. I love that. Javon Bullard is a B+. I think they're going to move him to the nickel. I think that's a great pick for them. Marshawn Lloyd made no sense. They seem to always go running back. You have A.J. Dillon. You signed Josh Jacobs. Why did you need to go another running back? Tyron Hopper also made no sense. You double dipped at linebacker, and you got one that can't cover. It got a B-. Evan Williams, I thought was overdrafted. That's a C. I think they reached there. Jacob Monk is a D. Again, didn't think they needed to go there. An interior offensive lineman at 163 that honestly probably would have been there down the board, way down the board. You took him earlier than I think you should have. And then I like the Oladapo pick, a box safety, very similar to a player Packers fans are very familiar with in Adrian Amos. Travis Glover is a very interesting one as well. Michael Pratt, a little bit confusing. I hope he develops into something, but he's going to be a backup quarterback. I think it's a fine pick there. And then Kalen King gets an A+ because I know Kalen King can develop into something great in this team. I know I have not been the highest on Kalen King post Senior Bowl. Happy to see him at least get drafted. And I think he's going to be a good player in the league. At 255, take a swing on a player that was once great. It's an overall B draft for me. I think there were a few very questionable picks from Green Bay. Next up, we got the Houston Texans. It's a B-. The only A that I gave them was Ladarius Henderson. Kamari Lassiter, not a player I'm the biggest fan of. I get he's been productive, but the speed is concerning. Blake Fisher, I've upgraded this pick since my grades. I like it. I think he's athletic. I think he's going to develop into their long-term right tackle. Kalen Bullock, another B. I think he's a good safety, going to pair along nicely with what they have. But again, not a pick I'm in love with. Cade Stover, not a guy I'm super high on, but you're reuniting CJ Stroud with his college tight end. On top of that, they needed a tight end to pair with Dalton Schultz. Dalton Schultz. I believe he's still there. Did he leave? I'm blanking right now. But I think that was a fine pick there. Then they went back-to-back very questionable picks. Jamal Hill, not a guy that I think was very high on a lot of people's boards. Jawar Jordan, definitely not a guy that was high. I get he's got explosiveness, probably going to be a kick returner for them. Marcus Harris, another one of those Auburn defensive tackles. I liked him a little bit more. I'm just surprised they didn't address the defensive line a little bit more. Could have added some more interior help, and they really didn't. Solomon Byrd at 238 is a fine rotational edge rusher, but I was kind of underwhelmed by what Houston did. It's a B minus for me. My Indianapolis Colts, I know it says A, it's a B, and it's a B minus. I actually am pretty disappointed in what my Colts did. Laiatu Latu and Adonai Mitchell were two of the best picks of the entire draft. Absolutely dominated. I thought those were excellent picks. Matt Goncalves made 0 sense. And then you took Tanner Bortolini. So I'm still left like with scratching my head. Like, why are we going back-to-back O-line? The Bortolini pick I do like. I love his versatility. He could play center for you. This team was banged up on the interior. He is going to be a rotational guy for them. Anthony Gold, okay. I thought after we drafted Adonai Mitchell, receiver was off the table. Anthony Gold's going to be a kick returner for us, so I don't hate it. It's a B minus. Jalen Carleys and Jalen Simpson, I much prefer Jalen Simpson. I think he's versatile, could play in the nickel. I think he's good in coverage. Carleys, they're saying might convert to a linebacker. So Ballard obviously does his patented day 3 linebacker pick. Micah Abraham, really like that pick actually from Marshall. He's been very productive for them at 201. I think it's worth a swing. And then Jonah Laulu out of Oklahoma. It's a B minus draft for me. I think there were too many picks that I'm like, no. Better players on the board. Why would you do that? Didn't like it. It's a B minus. Don't pay attention to the grade up there. For the Jaguars, another team that's a B minus for me. I loved the Brian Thomas Jr. pick for them early on. The fact that they traded back still got him at 23. Chef's kiss. And then every other pick, I was kind of back and forth. I love Miles Cole at 236. I think he could be a very intriguing force for this team. Was very good for Texas Tech this last season, and the athleticism is ridiculous. And then you look at Jerrion Jones. I love his versatility. I think he's going to be an excellent replacement for Darius Williams. Javon Foster he's a bit older, has been a bit injury prone, but I think it's a fine pick there. A lot of picks I didn't like. Keelan Robinson at 167 made no sense. He was the number 2 back at Texas. I honestly didn't even think he was going to get drafted. That got a D. I think running back could have been a pick you addressed at 236. Cam Little, good pick for them there. I like that. DeAndre Prince, another pick that I do quite like. It was the Jordan Jefferson and Mason Smith picks that I was like, interesting. They double dipped on defensive tackles from LSU in the top 125. I didn't love it. I thought they could have gone somewhere else. I thought Mekhi Wingo probably could have been the first. I would have rather them gone Wingo there. I wasn't in love with it. I would have liked to see them address other positions, maybe improve this interior offensive line a little bit, which they did not do. It's a B minus for me. I think it's an okay draft, but it's not one that I'm in love with. Next up, we've got the Kansas City Chiefs. It's an A minus. I don't really think there's a miss here, to be completely honest. Xavier Worthy, I love that pick. Kingsley Suamataia, I'm not the biggest fan of. I get the athletic upside, the versatility. I'm not a big fan of. And then they went on a run here. Jared Wiley and Jaden Hicks within 3 picks. I was like, they won the draft there. Jared Wiley, I've been saying, is a baby Travis Kelce, and they draft him at 131. He's going to be another receiving threat for Mahomes. Jaden Hicks is going to be that box strong safety that this team desperately needed. I love that. Kamal Haddon as well at 211. If it wasn't for the injuries, probably could have been a 3rd or 4th round pick. He's very good, very fluid, was very productive in the SEC this past season. It was Hunter Norzad that honestly moved this down. Why did they go there? I need some input from Chiefs fans. They've got one of the strongest interiors in the league. Kingsley could play that guard position. I don't think he's going to be playing center because Creed Humphrey is very, very good. I didn't understand that pick. And then CJ Hansen at 248. That pick made a little bit of sense, I guess. But it was the fact they went Norzad at 159 that pulls us down from an A+ to an A-. But overall, I think it's a good draft from Kansas City. For the Raiders, it's a B. I know some Raiders fans aren't going to be in love with this. I didn't love the Bowers pick for them. All the corners are on the board. They could trade back. Bowers just didn't make sense for them considering the positions that this team needed. And then they took Jackson Powers Johnson, who is a bulldozer. He fits exactly what the Raiders want to do. That's an easy A-plus pick. So is Dylan Laube at 208. He's going to be RB1 for this team. He's going to be a receiving threat out of the backfield. He could block a little. He's not the fastest guy in the world, but I think he provides some nice upside. Delmar Glaze, I love Delmar Glaze as a prospect. At 77, maybe a bit high. It gets a B minus for me. Same thing with DeCamerion Richardson at 112. Not a guy I particularly liked. He's been making a run late here, but it got a B minus. Tommy Eichenberg is a B plus. I love this as a middle linebacker for this team. At 148, he's very smart. He's going to be a tackling machine for them. And then you improve the secondary down the board, adding Trey Taylor from Air Force and MJ Devonshire out of Pitt, which that pick could arguably be an A. I think it's a good draft from the Raiders. Not one that I'm in love with. I think the Bowers pick, the Glaze pick, the Richardson pick, maybe you reached a little bit on some of these guys, but they got good players in the building. It's a B draft from Vegas. For the Chargers, it's an A. Really, the only pick that I disagreed with was Tarheeb Still. I thought at 137, it made no sense. But then they went and took Cam Hart. So I was like, oh, it's fine because they just got one of my favorite corners after taking a guy that I didn't really love. This team drafted 3 receivers. So I don't want to hear any of the Chargers should have taken Malik Neighbors at 5 crowd talk at all. You got Ladd McConkey, who's going to create separation. Brendan Rice, who's going to be that physical receiver for you down the field. And Cornelius Johnson, who is a player that Jim Harbaugh is very familiar with. I love that for them. You also took Kamani Vidal, who I think is going to be a very solid running back for this team. A little bit more powerful than you would think at his size, but I love that. Justin Aboigbe, he's got some versatility on this defensive line. I love what he can provide. And then Junior Colson, the best coverage linebacker in the draft, in my opinion. Another player Jim Harbaugh is very familiar with. And you took a generational left tackle prospect. The Chargers absolutely cooked in their first draft to Jim Harbaugh. Easy A from the Chargers. For the Rams, it gets a B. I like what they did with their first few picks. And then after that, I wasn't too in love with it. Verse Fisk, I liked quite a bit. I think those two are going to be awesome together. Blake Corum as a number 2 back to Kyron Williams is awesome. Cameron Kitchens, awesome. I think he was underrated. Maybe they took him a little bit higher than I think he was going to go, but I liked it. And then they got Brennan Jackson, solid edge rusher, not one that I was a big fan of. Tyler Davis, yikes. The Senior Bowl, the Combine were a disaster for him. I know he's been pretty productive for Clemson, but I love this guy, and he moved down my board pretty significantly. Joshua Carty, solid kicker. All the kicker picks got to be just putting that out there. Whittington, who I think is an underrated receiver. Maybe the production reception-wise isn't there, but he's a very good blocker, and he's going to be a solid route runner for them. Bo Limmer's an A+. A++. At 217, you get a top 100 guy on my board. Easy A+. And then KT Leviston, a rotational guy. It's a B+, A- to B sort of range, somewhere in there. Very similar to, I believe we talked about it with the Ravens earlier. It's a very similar draft to the Ravens to me. For the Dolphins, it's a C+, one of the worst grades I think I've given out. I have to be honest. This is one of the most confusing draft classes I think I've seen from a team. Chop Robinson at 21. I know some Dolphins fans like you need to watch the tape on Chop. Trust me, I've watched the tape on Chop. I don't think he's explosive, but Miami didn't need to do that in the first round. Look at the tackles on the board. Take a Graham Barton, take a Zach Frazier, take a guy that is going to be a mainstay and keep your quarterback healthy. Chop Robinson isn't keeping your quarterback healthy. Patrick Paul can keep your quarterback healthy. I think he's perfect for this scheme. And then I was kind of confused. I love Jalen Wright as a prospect. He's one of my favorite running backs in this class. His speed is electric. But you took him when you have Raheem Mostert, you just signed to an extension. And Devon Achane, I think they're very similar players. That got a C from me. Muhammad Kamara, I like that pick more than I like Chop because I think Muhammad Kamara is more productive. He's more pro-ready, and he's a better run defender. That makes sense. Malik Washington at 184 was maybe my favorite pick of the draft, an absolute steal. You pair him with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, it's going to be scary for opposing defenses. Patrick McMorris is a fine safety prospect. I wasn't in love with it. And Taj Washington. They needed interior offensive line so desperately. They made one interior pick. or one offensive line pick, period. And it was Patrick Paul. They got 3 skill positions and 2 edge rushers. It made no sense for Miami what they're trying to do. I don't know what they're trying to build, but this is not a great start to whatever they're trying to do. It's a C plus from Miami. For the Vikings, it's an A minus. I think almost every single one of these picks was fantastic. JJ McCarthy, A. Dallas Turner, A. You get one of the best quarterbacks and one of the best and arguably the best edge rusher. Kyrie Jackson, B plus at 108. I think this is a tremendous range for a guy I really like. The size is outstanding on him. He's going to be a very good player in the NFL, I think. Walter Rouse at 177, another A. He's very productive for Oklahoma in his career. Will Reichard, it's a B, another kicker pick. Michael Juergens, pretty productive for Wake Forest, actually, at the center position. That got an A from me. And then Levi Drake Rodriguez, a defensive tackle prospect. It's a C. I don't really know too much about it. I thought they should have double dipped in the secondary. But overall, it's an A- draft from the Minnesota Vikings to me. For the New England Patriots, it's another A-. I think really the only pick I didn't love was Marcellus Dial and Caden Wallace. Dial's fine. I think he might convert to safety at the next level. And then Caden Wallace, I think was a bit high, but he's going to be your right tackle of the future, so you got to love that. Drake May, Jalen Polk, 2 fantastic picks at 3 and 37. Javon Baker at 110. I love what they've done there. And then Layden Robinson, you get some more offensive line help. You look at this board, every single pick is good. Joe Milton is an A pick to me because I think he could be a tight end, but he's also an interesting backup quarterback. And at 193, take a swing there. Jaheim Bell, another interesting player as well, could play fullback probably at the next level. Then A draft from New England. First draft post-Belichick is a competent one. Next up for the Saints, it's another A-, arguably could be an A+. This draft is almost flawless to me. Talise Fuaga could play guard, could play tackle. He's going to play tackle because of the decimation of that offensive line. That's an A, or it's a B+ A. I would have rather them take Fautanu there. Kool-Aid McKinstry, A+. You get one of my favorite corners at 41. Spencer Rattler, A. I think they found their quarterback of the future at 150. Tremendous value there. Bub Means, solid receiver prospect, B+ for me there. Jalen Ford's an A, one of the better coverage linebackers in this class. Christian Boyd, another very freak athlete on the interior. That's an A. And then you get Josiah Ezerim down the board, who's going to be a nice tackle. It's an A-. I love this draft from the Saints. I think they absolutely crushed it. For the Giants, it's a C+. I'm sorry, Giants fans. I don't understand this draft one bit at all. There's a couple picks I love, and it's Neighbors and Tracy. I think both of those picks are great. Newman is a player that I love. At 47, I thought it was high. I thought, look at the safety depth. Bo Braid was an undrafted free agent. Get that guy. I didn't understand that. Andrew Phillips, I'm not a big fan of. Hasn't been very productive, and it doesn't seem like Giants fans are a big fan of that pick either. Theo Johnson's interesting because we don't know what Darren Waller is going to be long-term. He offers some upside. He's probably going to sit for a year or two, but I like the upside. And then they took a linebacker from UCLA and Darius Muasau. I didn't understand that. What did they need that they didn't address once? Offensive line. Not a single offensive line pick in this entire draft. I'm disappointed. They probably could have gone defensive tackle as well to get a guy next to Dexter Lawrence, and they haven't done it. Yeah, it's a C+. Pretty underwhelmed by this Giants draft. For the Jets, it's an A-. The only pick I didn't love was Isaiah Davis, and it's because they took Braylon Allen at 134. Olu Fashanu's an A. He's going to sit behind Tyron Smith for a little bit. Then you get an A+ for Malachi Corley. You move up, and you get an awesome receiver prospect who's going to be in the slot with Mike Williams and Garrett Wilson. Easy A+ there. Braylon Allen's a B. You've got Thunder to Breece Hall's Lightning. Another very good pick. Didn't think running back was going to be in the cards here. Jordan Travis was a B+. You got your hopefully quarterback of the future, a guy who can sit under Rodgers for a year or two. Isaiah Davis made no sense considering they already drafted a running back. Quantez Stiggers, I absolutely love the story. Makes sense for the Jets as well. And then they add Jalen Key with the final pick of the draft, Mr. Irrelevant. It gets an A- for me. I think they actually had a very, very good draft, and this offense is going to be electric next season. For the Eagles, it's another A minus. Not very many picks that I disagree with. Jalen Hunt was the questionable one here, but I love his versatility, and I think he's going to be used in some very interesting ways. You got Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, 2 A pluses. You got Jeremiah Trotter, another A plus, and you got Johnny Wilson, which I gave an A plus because I think he's going to be a rotational tight end for this team. I think that's what they drafted him for, and if that's what you're getting at 185, I think that's fantastic. I didn't like the Will Shipley pick. Trevor Keegan and Dylan McMahon were two of the same players to me, so I didn't like that they took both of them. But overall, very good draft from Philly, and this gets an A minus from me. The Steelers are an A plus. I shouldn't have to explain it. They had not one, not two, not three, not four, but 5 A pluses to start the draft. I don't think they missed on a single one of these picks. I think all 5 of these guys are going to be starters for this team. Fautanu at left tackle, Frazier at center, McCormick at left guard. They've got starters all over. I didn't let Ryan Watts probably going to play safety at the next level. Logan Lee, a defensive tackle prospect that's pretty solid. A plus. I love this from the Steelers. For the Niners, it gets a B. I thought down the board, I thought Pearsall was a bit high for me. I'm a big Pearsall. He was my guy in this class. At 31, felt a bit rich. The next few picks I thought were fantastic. Green, Pooney, Mustafa, Gurindo, awesome. I'm frustrated that Gurindo is going to be a San Francisco 49er, and Mustafa and Green. I love all 3 of those guys. Fantastic value picks there. I didn't love Jacob Cowing. That one didn't make a lot of sense. I'm assuming they're going to use him as a return man. Tatum Bethune, one of my favorite sleeper linebackers in this class. Everyone talked about Kalen DeLoach. I thought Bethune was better. He's got better size to him, and I like what he's going to offer to him. And then Jarrett Kingston, it's just a rotational guy. Did they draft anyone I'm in love with? No. This is another one in that A minus to B range. I'm very flexible in that sort of area. For the Seahawks, this one was in that same sort of range, but I'm going to probably push it more towards B. The first 3 picks I love that you guys know. I'm not the biggest Byron Murphy guy, but for Seattle and for the defense that Mike McDonald runs, I loved it. Christian Haynes got an A+. I love what he's going to bring to this team. He's going to be a nasty run blocker, which is what this team wants to do. Tyrese Knight as well, a very good linebacker. He's athletic. He provides a lot of upside there. Nehemiah Pritchett, I thought it was a bit high at 136. Lamea got a B for me. I think he's going to offer some offensive line versatility to them, which is a solid. Michael Jarrell, same thing there. DJ James was an A+. It's the A.J. Barner pick that made 0 sense. I get he's athletic, but he didn't show me anything on tape. I didn't even think he should have been drafted, to be completely honest. At 121, not a pick that I really loved. For the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I think almost every pick is going to be a starter and have very good impact for them. Graham Barton, Chris Braswell, Tyke Smith, 3 positions of need. Tyke Smith going to play that strong safety role. Braswell going to be another edge rusher, and then Graham Barton as well. And then Jalen McMillan, I love that pick to be the slot receiver. Bucky Irving, I felt was a bit high. He moved down my board pretty significantly. He's got receiving back upside. Hopefully he can develop into being this number 1 back for them. And then the last 2 picks, Elijah Klein, Devin Culp. The Culp pick was interesting to be that tight end there next to Cade Otton. And then Elijah Klein, maybe not the greatest pick in the world, but I think it makes sense for him. That gets a B+. For the Tennessee Titans, it pains me to say they had a good draft. Really very few of these picks that I don't like. I'm lower on Latham than consensus. I thought that it was a bit of a reach, but it's a position in need. I can't be mad. Tavondre Sweat, one of my favorite defensive tackles in this class. He makes a lot of sense there. That's an A. Cedric Gray is another A. He's a very smart player. He's got to improve his tackling, but the upside is there. Jarvis Brownlee got a B for me. James Williams, probably going to play linebacker for this team as well. That got an A+ at 242, a guy who I think could start at the NFL level. Jaquan Jackson, I like this pick for them actually quite a bit. They don't really have this in their receiving room. A slot receiver who's a bit quick. I like that pick at 182. And then Jalen Harrell, a B+. He's a bit undersized, but he's been productive for Michigan. I like this draft for the Titans. It gets a B+. And to finish us off, it's the Washington Commanders. Now, I got a comment that said I hate the Commanders, and that's not true, but I do hate this draft from the Commanders. I like Jaden Daniels. I like the pick. I think it makes sense. I love Jerzon Newton, the player. It's an A plus. I think you got one of the best prospects in the second round. Mike Sainristil made a little bit of sense. I started talking myself into it. I'm like, okay, Quan Martin's going to be moved back to safety. Sainristil is going to play in the slot. And then he took Dominic Hampton at 161, which is one of the worst picks of the draft, in my opinion. Made absolutely no sense. Another guy that probably could have gone, you could have gotten as an undrafted free agent. They took him at 161. Now I'm more confused about the Sainristil pick. I like the Ben Sinnott pick. Brandon Coleman was too high for me. He's athletic. He could play tackle and guard. I get it. Not a guy that I'm a fan of. Luke McCaffrey, another guy that I thought went too high in this draft. Jordan McGee was a good pick. I like what he provides out of Temple. And I like their last pick of Javonte Jean-Baptiste. Really no edge rushers until that last pick. It just was a bunch of randomness with Washington. It got a B minus for me. I know Commanders fans aren't going to like this grade, but I didn't like the draft very much for them. But guys, that's going to do it for me. These are my grades. Stay tuned. I've got a couple more videos that are going to be coming out later. Way too early mock draft coming as well very soon. Leave a like, subscribe if you are new, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Adios.